All right, folks, let's kick it off now. This should not be too long of a webinar, and this primarily because it's built off the sort of back of one of our longtime workhorses, right? The FCID. I think everybody on this call, I see a lot of familiar names. There's some new names as well, but if you're in the security realm in Teledyne FLIR, you already know the FCID because it has been the workhorse, been around for 10 plus years out in the field solving customer issues on the perimeter, right? That's what it was really, really good for. It still is really good for that. But now we have our next evolution, basically, of that long-standing product. And that's what we were really here to talk about. And I'm a little excited about it. So if you already know the FCID, just wait, because now we have really cool new features that we've sort of added to it, or functionality that we've added to it. You're going to learn about, and you're going to be able to see. You're already selling the FCID. Wait till you see how easy it's going to be to sell something for the same price. I'm tipping the hat right now. I was going to save that, until we got to another slide. But an improved product that already is selling, already a workhorse, now has got some cool new features, and the price has not changed. So I do want to talk about, where we are right now. And if you look at this slide, this is 10 years ago. Now this, if you see the YouTube link that's starting to play there on the right-hand side, this video is probably 8 years old, right? Back then, we were the next level, right? And this is what it says in the marketing. This is why we were owning this space, right? And people couldn't really do what we do because of the sensors that we already had and all of our lensing options. And, you need wide angle lenses for short fence lines. You need telephoto more lensing for long range fence lines. And we've been doing this for so long. Now you're going to be able to see how we've moved forward with primarily two new things that we've added to the array of the strength of this camera already. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide. Now you can see these are also embedded, so they should kick off here in just a second. But we've been relying on the FCID algorithms for quite some time, right? And these algorithms were primarily motion based, right? And that's basically what we had, and it's what's worked for a long time. There's nothing wrong with them. Are we going to keep them around? Absolutely we are. They're awesome. We do need them. But beyond what we used to have, right, what we have been relying on already with that motion-based algorithms, now with the new addition of our DNN analytics that we're going to talk about as we move forward, you're going to see how it does improve, one, our distance that we can classify things at, right, because we're combining those motion analytics along with these new types of analytics that are going to be able to really broaden the spectrum of the solutions that we can offer our customers. So let's just keep going a little bit. As I said, this shouldn't take us too long to get through. I seem to be stuck here. Hold on, let my machine catch up. It was freezing on me a little bit earlier. Okay, there it is. It's starting to launch something. I think I tried to launch I did by accident. So all right, back to our slide deck. And you can see there what we were talking about. Now on this slide right here, in the past, we used to rely only on those motion detection alarms. So if you look at the top, high accuracy intrusion detection, it's really key. I think, as intrusion has evolved, we are the ones that are providing solutions for perimeter, right? And as the bad actors, right, anytime they think of a new way to try to defeat our perimeter solutions, we need to create those solutions to overcome those as well. And this is an ongoing thing. It never ends. And that's why we're introducing these new functionalities to this really strong camera to start with. And if you start, we got 3 paragraphs right here. You can see the link at the top, right? It's easy to find, the FC Series AI at our FLIR website. But the high accuracy intrusion detection, this is a really big deal. This is going to lower our false alarm rate, right? And that is a big deal, right? When we're talking about the cost of ownership, right? The total cost of ownership, the TCO. If our people are not alerted by nuisances, they're able to be more efficient on their job. And we've really, really increased the efficiency of our analytics now with these addition of the new DNN analytics. Now we have to understand sort of how they play together. And that's really the secret here, right? It's not brand new analytics all by themselves. We're not switching teams. What we're doing is we're adding people to the roster, right? If the baseball team reference, right? We've already got a good first baseman, good second baseman. Now we got this new pitcher coming in. It's going to really help the team. It's going to help you guys sell this product because it's already familiar, already been in the industry for a long, long time and revered, in the industry. And now we're adding functionality and features. We're increasing our our accuracy and our intrusion. We're going to minimize those false alarms. If you look at, in the bullet points under that orange category, the geolocation, the Nexus server that's running in the system, that's part of our future. And we'll get to exactly what that is as we go forward, but our virtual barrier analytics, right? That's part of it. Each device has a Nexus server running inside it, which is able to geolocate, and that allows us to do handoff to PTZs, to object tracking, things of that nature, right? All the devices in the realm, even if they're fixed, like this camera is, still has a geolocation within it, and that can help us then communicate with the other devices in our environment with those same Nexus servers. So if you go down to the green section, you could see leading, industry leading thermal imaging. That's almost like you don't even have to say it when you say FLIR, right? Everybody knows that's the case, has been the case for a long time. But look in those bullet points, because this is one of the cool new things that we've just added to this camera series, right? The FC series, now the AI. And that is the lower sensitivity, or 25 millikelvins, which before, if you probably saw our webinar in our internal release for the FH series, that had a lower than our previous cameras. That was 35 millikelvins. And we talked then about the importance of thermal sensitivity and how it gives you better clarity, especially when there's bad weather, right? When it's raining across the scene, a lot of those things then, if we all know thermal, a lot of those things are going to be very similarly temperatured, right? They're going to be almost the same. And it really puts a covering over it. The higher the sensitivity, or lower millikelvin number that we can produce based on these new sensors that we have on this FC series AI camera, is going to be able to allow us to even be better than what we already were. And that's the awesome part, right? Nothing new, just better. All right, so we also have the custom AGCs that we talk about sometimes, and the dynamic detail enhancement, of course. That's another sort of software way to make the images look better. When we're looking in thermal, just like in visual, right, we need pixels on target. Sensors can sense, but the analytics need to be able to see in order to analyze, right, perform the functions that they do. So again, just like visible, we need those pixels on target. That's why we have different lensing options, right? That's what I was leading to down at the blue paragraph down there. A wide range of lenses. Why do we need that? Well, it's easy. Like as I already mentioned today, right? That we have long range fence lines. We're going to have high millimeter lenses to be able to capture something at that great distance. However, we also have parking lots and various other fence lines and perimeters, right, where we need a wider field of view. And that's why we have all the lensing options we do. From VGA, you can see from 8 degrees to 90-degree fields of view. All right, let's go ahead and go forward. Now, the detector, right? This is really the key to that new sensor that this camera has that the FCID camera did not have before, right? We started at the top, way back in the day with the Omega detector, right, or sensor, and then the photon sensor, and then tau, and then boson. This camera is right there in the tau plus range. And a little tidbit I learned from Matt last week that the FCB camera, I think, or the FB series, excuse me, camera is actually going to focus and try to use some of the functionalities that the boson plus can give us. So as we're increasing our capabilities, adding analytics and things like that, we need better detectors, and that's what we've added here. That's the second thing, right? We got the DNN analytics, and we have these new higher performance sensors that give us that lower MK number, right? The higher thermal sensitivity that allows us to see things or differentiate between objects in scenes. And you're going to see how important that is right here on this slide, right? This is a familiar slide. I think we used this one in the FH series even, right? You can see on the left-hand side, you got your 50 millikelvin, right? Those are the older cameras, right? They still are good, but the lower we can get that millikelvin number, you can see the visual difference in these two slides, right? It's much clearer and crisper because we're able to define individual pixels with the higher sensitivity sensor. Whereas we can't do that with the 50 millikelvin ones. You can see it's raining in both of these scenarios. Rain alone is going to detract away from the clarity of the scene. And that's why the higher sensitivity sensor, lower millikelvin number. And now we're all the way down to 25, right? This was, like I said, slide because the FH was down to 35, which was awesome then. Not good enough for us, right? We need even better. And now we're getting down to the 25 millikelvins. And from what I understand from Matt, there's nobody else in the market doing this. This is a huge differentiator for us, and we need to let the customers out there understand why it's important. That's why Hopefully I've at least relegated some of that to you now, but here's more in case you didn't believe me. There's 35 millikelvin on the left, our FCID, right? And again, FHID is the first one to put it out with 35, but then FC as well. And now we have the FCAI on the right with the 25 millikelvins. Look at that fence in the very front. The sort of barbed wire things at the top, much clearer and more defined. Even the fence itself, the metal part of it, it seems like a much darker black, more of a matte kind of black. And if you look deeper into the scene, all the way back where the little bright part of the building is, I'm able to see that that's an actual fence right there. Whereas in the 35 millikelvin scene on the left-hand side, you can't make out as much detail. So if you basically just pick out anything in this scene and then compare it to what it looks like in the other scene, you can see. Now this one, again, it's 10 millikelvins difference, right? There's already visible or enough visuals where I can see the benefit of this, right? And again, you get bad weather, it makes it tougher. So the lower millikelvin number, the better off you're gonna be. All right, and our new sensor allows us to do that. Now these videos should start as well. This is still not a released version of the analytics. That's why it just says object of interest. But you notice even the thing outside of the scene on the left-hand side is an object of interest as well. It never really goes into the scene. Those obviously will be classified as human or vehicles. Hopefully no vehicles in the field, but still we're able to do that. Now, if you look at the top in blue, I put this in because the algorithm libraries, right? If all we had was motion, which we did before, and we add libraries to our analytics, right? The DNN analytics that we're talking about. The broader that algorithm library is that we bring to the table, the broader our solutions can be then at that point, right? And that's again, one of the sort of clarifiers between CNN analytics and DNN analytics, right? CNN is very specific for, individual things, and that's why we had them before with our FHID, we still do. But now we're moving into a sort of broader library, right? This is going to allow us to use our sensors and to use our analytics to do more things for our customers that we just couldn't do before. So, all right, let's go ahead and keep going forward. As I mentioned, it's not going to take too long. We recognize the greatness of the FCID camera. This just gives us more things to be excited about, right, to show to the customer. So if you look in the middle on the left-hand side there, we got our unclassified, those the motion-based analytics, and we couple them with those classified analytics, the DNN analytics. We sync them together, and then the object of interest, like for instance, the DNN analytics, maybe they have let's just make up a number, this is off the top of my head, 100 meters, but the motion-based analytics can see further than that. So we can use the motion-based analytics as sort of a trigger to put the DNN analytics onto the object of interest even before it can really see. And that's a really cool thing. And so it gives us the ability, and here's where we first see the virtual barrier analytics. This is, and why it gives us that better situational awareness. Not only do we combine those things, as I just mentioned here, to give us longer distances, that's going to increase our probability of detection, right? POD. We've talked about POD, probability of detection, FAR, which is false alarm rate. And there's always the trade-off, right? I'm moving my hands up and down in front of my face right now because you want to make sure you don't have false alarms, but you still need to increase your detection, right? You can lower your false alarms by just decreasing your detection length, right? We don't want to do that. We want to do both. So there's always that fine line. And as I mentioned already, I think, we talked about the virtual barrier analytics and how I think Matt can talk about it towards the end of the webinar if that's the case. But I think we're even thinking about, potentially with our marketing team, we're in the beginning of this, maybe even protecting that, like trademarking it, right? Things like that. So that would be awesome. All right. So let's go ahead and go forward. And as I mentioned, I probably should have mentioned already, you guys have the questions section on the right-hand side. You probably already know it, right? And that's why I don't like to waste too much time on the front end. I like to get to the good stuff. But definitely use the question section on the right-hand side. We've got some of our team here. See the guy crawling, right? That's, again, the future of perimeter security, not just line crossing, right? Not just motion detection, but now the analytic can actually detect things like crawlers, whatever that dude was doing right there on the left-hand side, creeping a little bit. But if you look on the right-hand side, you could even see this, I think, is a solar panel array right here, and it goes a great distance. But if you could see, they might have stopped right now because I can't really see it, but the bushes were moving, not being detected. Right in the very beginning, the eagle eye folks who were watching it when we first got to the slide, on that right image on the right-hand side, the very top left corner, a bird flies by very quickly and it just says object of interest, right? It sees it, but it doesn't classify it because it knows it's not a vehicle or a human. So those, if you look at the bottom right there, right, the deep neural network analytics combined with the motion analytics to accurate detection and classification. All right, let's move forward. I like video, right, so we can see it happening and stuff. I think everybody tunes in to be able to see it, right? I can talk about it all day, but I like to see it. This is a slide we've seen many, many times. Every time we release a camera, this is the sort of spec slide, right? We talk about the things that are important, and there are a lot of things on here that are important. If you start at the top right corner, right, the right side is more of the sort of features themselves, right? 25 millikelvin thermal sensor, 8 thermal lensing for any size perimeter that you need. Nexus servers inside to communicate geolocation and other data to other machines that are in your perimeter solution. We now have an improved storage on the edge. That's always good, right? Storage on the edge allows you the redundancy that you don't have, even in failover situations with Latitude or VMS. In failover, like archive or failover, you still lose data unless you have a scheme like this with SD cards on board, and then you lose access to the server loses access to the camera. Now, if the camera dies, you lose everything. So let's get that straight. But the camera's alive and it just loses access to the server. What it's going to do then is it's going to continuously record to itself. And then when it connects back up to Latitude, Latitude's going to say, there you are, camera. Give me everything you had from that time I lost you. And it fills in your timeline. And so I'm a huge fan of on-edge storage or on-edge redundancy, at least, right? Storage is the archivers. But a big deal, right? We've added that now where we did not have that in previous models of the FC series. We have ONVIF profiles S, G, and T for streaming and analytics and storage on edge, et cetera. 10-year thermal sensor warranty. Again, industry leader in that area. We've already talked about combining the DNN motion thermal analytics, and you can see the outdoor rating is the IP66 and IP67, 40 degrees Celsius minus 40 degrees Celsius to 70 degrees Celsius. Now, this camera, not only is it better, bigger, and stronger, it actually can withstand better temperatures too, because you'll see that's an improvement from the 50 degrees Celsius, minus 50, excuse me, to plus 70 that we had on the FCID. All right. Now we're getting towards the end where I'm going to actually hand it off to Matt, and he's going to talk about our where we're going forward and what our plans are, so everybody knows. But you can see right here, these are the lensing options that we've talked about at least already a little bit, the 8 lensing options for matching to the size of the perimeter, right? We don't want to sell square pegs and hope, our customers don't have round holes, right? We want to be able to have options for the customers, and that's why we have this array of high performance lensing options. And then it mentions the storage on the edge at the bottom. Keep in mind, I mentioned same exact price, and that's really the cool part, I think. You can see here the target markets, the usual ones, right? We're an enterprise company. We provide sensors at all levels to multiple markets, but perimeter, we play in the big boys market. That's what we're doing, right? And that's what we've been doing. We even have competitors now trying to sort of move up market, right? They have the smaller installations, and they've always wished they could do what we could do, but they couldn't. However, they're always going to try. So they're emerging, into our markets from below. It's nothing that says we can't push down market as well, right? Take some of that market share away from them, because we already do it at such a high level. Now we can start making it happen in other emerging markets. So keep that in mind. That's a big deal, I think, as we go forward, and Matt will talk more about that as we move. Now, I think this is my final slide. I might have one more. So Matt, if you're there, get ready, because I'm going to hand it off to you in just a second. This is a comparison slide right between the FCAI and the FCID. The primary ones are in green that you can see, but look at the top, the red, right? There is no Q VGA, right? We're VGA and moving forward. We're not looking back, right? Because the extra pixels on target is going to increase our analytics ability to be able to detect the things that they need to detect and then report back. Yep, that's what that is. So more pixels on target, yay. Look down into the green now, right? 25 millikelvins, we can see better. More clarity between objects in a scene, yay, right? 2 good things in a row. AI plus motion intrusion, whereas we just had motion intrusion, another benefit. And then now, additionally, H.265 streaming video, which is going to save on storage, so their capacity will be longer for the customer. So let's just keep going down at the bottom. You can see the power output is a little bit different. One thing to note, This camera, as you can see in the very top left little sort of window there, no PoE, right? This is PoE plus going forward. Again, we want this device to perform at its high peak, and it's going to demand a lot of power in order to do that. So we wanted to go forward. PoE plus is standardizing on this, whereas before on the FCID, we could use just PoE in certain situations. All right. I think this is my last slide. It's just the part numbers. You can see the normal sort of part numbers on the left, and on the right-hand side, the universal mounting options, right? This camera, if you have the same form factor, guess what? All the mounts will be the same for each of the new FC AI version. So again, universal mounting options, all the part numbers you see on the left-hand side, both the 30 hertz and the 8.3 hertz, depending on where you're selling it into. And with that said, I think we're going to start talking about where we're going forward. And at this point, I think I want to hand the mic off to Matt Strotman, our global head of business development for security. Matt, are you with us?
Hey, everyone. So I do want to address a couple questions that came in just because they are somewhat timely. Neil had asked about the analytics, about the advanced motion and the CNN, and this is what this slide's kind of is depicting here. On the actual release of this product, which is now September, we are going in after to classify this analytic package as virtual barrier. So we did start that process about a year or so ago, and it kind of tapered off. We are picking it back up. We are going to look to try to get trademarks and copyrights and all of that with it, much like how Access has their analytic classifieds for spec reasons. So we are going to do that. And to answer your question, the current version of what's being released today is a combined detection zone. So you no longer have to overlap the CNN and the motion based or the CNN and create different zones. They're there. Where we're heading by the end of November, we should have the full GA3 launch, which is basically from now until then. Seetha and the PM team are with R&D are going to be doing a lot of testing on it and basically just cleaning up and fine tuning the analytic package. There's no issue with the current version of it. There's just a few things with a couple of firmware revisions that will improve things like distances and stuff like that. And then we'll be able to do final testing on the distances to update all of that information. So, Seetha, is there anything you want to add to that?
Thanks, Matt.
Yep.
Well, I think you have explained it pretty well. Indeed, we are fine-tuning the algorithm, and a new firmware will be released along with the GA3. But that also would have would also address the larger FH platform. But both of the FC and FH will use the same analytics. So we should see that with a wider portfolio coverage, which is what GA3 will address.
So that'll be in a couple months. Paul had asked what the meaning of DNN and the difference to CNN. So initially when we were going forward with this analytic package, we were calling it CNN, convolutional neural networks. So we've decided to slightly pivot and reclassify the analytics as DNN, which is deep neural networks. And that's largely because the DNN is the larger umbrella that is the neural network family that we're developing these analytics under. CNN is how we condition the analytics. So it's a little bit more specific. So to be a little bit more broader for the overall description, from a marketing standpoint, we're going with DNN. So that's the slight change of why you're seeing DNN more over CNN. And then Bob had asked, are these IP enabled? Yes, all of these have an RJ45 connection and are IP specific. So as you look at the timeline of the proposed, analytic, by Q1 of next year, the hope is to also incorporate fire detection algorithms into this analytic suite. So next slide, please. So the next three slides are just comparing our product to the competition. Axis is probably the most well-known brand. I would argue Axis is in thermal just because they can be. They're really not trying to do anything spectacular in the space, but they do get a lot of mind share just because they're there. They have tons of salespeople globally. They're obviously a front runner in visible, and they're picking up thermal mind share. So what we need to do is we're going to address from a technical standpoint, as you can see, their Q1952 is their higher end when it comes to sensitivity and resolution, but they only have 3 lens options. So when we look at that, we have 8 lens options with a better sensitivity, and I know our price point is give or take a couple $100 within that. So there really should be no question, and we'll continue to work on building out the back end from the FBs. And if anyone's not aware of the FB price revision that came out earlier this year, please shoot me a note privately, and I'll make sure you get that updated pricing, because we do also compete now with their lower end products as well. So next slide. So this is comparing to Bosch. I don't know how often we run up against Bosch these days. I know 5 or so years ago, they had a little bit better analytic package. So the FCAI should be able to hold its own against the Bosch analytics. And as you can see, we're obviously superior when it comes to sensitivity and resolution and lens options. So next. And the last 2 are showing Hanwha and SiteLogix. SiteLogix, probably more US, Canadian centric, but a formidable part or a competitor when it comes to having the breadth of product and lenses and also the resolution. But now we obviously have the product to go after them on all fronts. And Hanwha really doesn't stand from a technical standpoint to be very competitive against us, except if you want a low cost product. So that's us. I see there's a couple more questions coming in. So Neil is asking what new analytics will be in the GA3 crawling. So see that confirmed, but Neil, I don't know if we're actually going to be able to like classify a crawler per se, but it'll be able to classify a human that is crawling. So we're now on a motion-based system. A human could be missed just because of the form factor and being low to the ground, where the DNN analytics are looking at humans and at different positions, different, standing, bent over, crawling, and being able to classify, more accurately classify. And I know that we are working to try to quantify that actual classification.
Yeah, that's perfectly true. Crawling per se is a more nuanced, let's say, intrusion method that we have found and our customers have also raised. So this is exactly one of the key elements of the GA3 that we are addressing in great detail. Plus, to come to the question about one of the questions raised is whether we have tests being conducted. Yes, they are. Some are customer witnessed tests that are happening and are going to happen as well in the coming month. Those will, of course, be also collated as findings for further improvement before we make a GA launch. So that's going to happen. And where people may need sample videos in advance to support projects, etc. For sure, please feel free to reach out to Matt first, so that he can come back to you with from the existing samples that we have conducted. So that will also help the process.
I see another question about the FCR. The FCR will be coming out on the tail end of the FCAI launch. So we're launching that now. We are working on getting basically the FCR is not far behind. See that I think last we spoke, we were thinking a couple months to have official release on the product.
Indeed, the plan is still Q4.
Yes.
May not be until December, can be sooner than that. Indeed.
Yeah. So I would say the official launch will be probably later Q4. If you have something timely with a customer and we need to do something as a one-off, just reach out to myself and Sita, and we'll work with you directly to try to set proper expectations and communicate with your customer. Right? We don't want to turn away from opportunities, but we also don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. So official release will be sometime probably later Q4 of the FCR, but we still have the FHR.
One thing that I did clarify, the pricing, right? Pricing is the same as the FCID. So not only do you have cooler functionality, better features, there's no additional cost, right? Our guys are out there trying to make our salespeople's job easier, but because usually you add something, well, you got to pay for that thing, right? But this actually increases the capabilities of the camera that you're already familiar with, and at no additional cost. And I wanted to add that to make sure everybody understands.
Yeah, and the logical next question will be, well, what's going to happen to the FCID? At some point, we will start to end of life the FCID. There's not an official timeline on that yet, but as we all know, it's hard. We're having a challenging time getting some of the boards, so we're not able to provide that product in a timely manner. So that's part of the reason why the FCAI is going to maintain the same price point as the FCID. And at some point, we will go EOL with the ID. The new price list, I think it's all been submitted into SAP, so it should be in the CRM. If it's not, shoot me a message and we'll look into that. So logically, then the price list should be able to be generated here shortly.
All right, I still don't see any further questions other than the pricing thing that I was talking about as the question came in. Sita or Matt, is there anything, before we let everybody go, is there anything you want to add that maybe I left out or something to be clarified as we move forward? If not, then, we'll let people go, but I wanted to give you guys that last opportunity.
So
Yeah,
technical.
thanks. Yeah, sorry. Go first, Matt. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, and so Neil's asking a more technical external presentation. So the external launch for this is slated for mid-September. So we'll be putting some stuff together. Right now, it's kind of this middle ground where we wanted to get you guys enough of the information to start talking about it, let you comfortably know that you can talk about it, we can ship it. As Sita and Michael and the R&D team are finalizing some of these testings, and we're getting more substantial data, we can add that into the deck. We don't want to, again, overpromise, underdeliver, or send premature information, but that's what we're working on right now.
So coming to I just wanted to put maybe one last point about the DNN CNN part, which people would be, it's logical to raise that question, given that all our collateral and the previous FCID has quite centered on the CNN. The reason we are also shifting it to the DNN is because the AI capability is also widening. So we are really using a larger portfolio of what AI can do. CNN is more specialized, we could say, and with the DNN-based analytics, we can also build on this. We should think of it like a stacked intelligence, that we are building on. So for all the marketing for FCAI and the FH GA3 that's going to be released, we are going to shift all marketing communication to focus on the DNN part, and it will also be reflected in the collateral that we will release in the coming weeks. Yeah, so those would be addressed, so there's no confusion on how we address to the customers. That's all I wanted to add. All
right. Well, we're going to let everybody go back to their day now. I hope you've learned and are excited about the new FC AI release. This webinar and this slide deck will be made available to anybody that wants it. You should get a follow-up email. If you don't have a link to those things, or if you want one of those things, just send me an email directly. I am Marty Major, or Martin, MARTIN .Major, MAJOR @teledyne.com, and we'll get you squared away. Just checking the list one more time. I don't see any further questions. So Matt, Sita, thanks for attending and helping us out with this webinar. What we're going to do is let everybody get going now. And I hope to see everybody at the next release. Thanks.